My name is Karen Florence. I'm also known as Ampersand Duck. Letterpress printing is it is a rare craft. Something I'm really interested in is how people get involved in letterpress printing, and I'm one of the last of the classic sort of. There's a whole heap of people who got into it because their grandfathers or their uncles or their fathers took them to a printery and showed them the presses and showed them the type. Then there's people like me who went to uni and did a class in English in bibliography, and we were taken to do a workshop to show how books were created and set some type, and as soon as I touched the type I knew that's what I wanted to do. That's far and few between these days because they don't teach bibliography at very many universities. I think Monash is the last one in Australia and Dunedin is one of the last in New Zealand. And then there's this new wave of people who are getting into it because they're artists or designers, graphic designers especially, and they don't really want to know how the type works. They want to make their designs three-dimensional or more textural, and that's how they're getting into it. These guys are some of the old-fashioned people who want to work with type, and they're mostly book and print professionals, so they either work in printmaking or they work in libraries, or they have been working with artists with letterpress, and they just wanted to sort of have a week of sort of like a masterclass. We're making a folio of prints. We've approached a number of poets, and these participants got a choice of poetry to play with, and they've each chosen one poem. We started with 3 poets, but we've ended up with 2 poets, just because they picked out the poems they liked, and they have to be by only 2 poets. So, and they're all from the same stable, publishing stable, so they're from the Letterpress Press, and they've all taken the time to set the poem typographically so that they get to play with the poem on the page, and we're printing separate pages that will be collated into a folio. The Albion Press, which is the iron hand press, I think we've got the date on it of 1857, I think. Was it 1857. And I think it was a newspaper press when it was, and most of them are exported from London or imported from London. So that one says London on it, so I presume it was imported from London to do a newspaper or to do some sort of, for a printery. There's a lot of Albions in Australia. Most of them have been kept by printmaking workshops, and they've had their the letterpress equipment on them removed because they're used for lino cuts, wood cuts, wood engravings, whatever. They're very good relief presses. So this is one of the few that still has like a frisket, which is the bit that holds the type down, and we're actually not using the frisket today because it's something you make for a long job, and we've got lots of small jobs, so we're using it in a more sort of temporary sort of way. But essentially it's a flatbed that you put the type on, and you hand roll ink onto the type, and then you put the paper down onto the type and roll it under the platen, and the platen comes down and squashes the paper onto the type, and then we release it, and there's your print. And so at the moment we're just adjusting everything so that we can get decent prints for everybody. It takes a bit. It's called make ready. When you sort of pad up behind the print, you pad up behind the type. You sort of adjust the pressure by little slips of paper and extra sort of bits of padding. So that's what letterpress takes. Sort of 3 days to set up and then half an hour to print. It's not instant gratification. The rolling itself, the rolling with the ink slab, it's very. It takes time to sort of get a feel. It's all very physical. You've got to listen for the hiss of the ink on the roller. So you'll see someone rolling there, and they're listening for the hiss, the sound of the ink with the roller. And you want it really sort of juicy and wet for wood type, and you want it quite dry and almost sound like you're sort of ripping silk for the lead type. We're also printing with what's called a hammer, and it's a little tabletop hydraulic press that was made. There's only about 3 in the world, we think, and it's a tiny little press. It's beautiful action. Again, it's a bit like the Albion in that you sort of put the type in, hand roll it, and then insert it into the press, and then pull down the platen and clamp down. We think it was named after the man who built it and his wife. I think it was Harry and Marion or something like that. I don't know. It's at Harmar. But yeah, a few of the participants are enjoying working with that. Yeah.